Toril had irreversibly changed after the end of the War of Dominion. Bane, the god of tyranny, had come frighteningly close to achieving its goal of conquering and subverting all known life. Elminster's sacrifice came before his greatest accomplishment was ever realized, the hypothesizing of a theory that would prove the answer to preventing the end of the known realms. Countering the threat of one evil required the resurrection of another. The astral planes returned to a relative normality. Many gods that had been destroyed or absorbed were revived and returned to their respective pantheons, looking favourably on the new divinity, made up of Torm, the god of loyalty, Tyr, the god of justice, and the newly ascended Theseus, the god of duty. Theseus would also revive his comrade Charysian, whom, for his efforts, would later be officially recognised as an archmage in the surviving realms, and move his base of operations to the abandoned Dungeontide. On Faerûn, Dale Reckoning had ended. The world entered a new age, the Years of Restoration. Civilization began to regrow in the west, along the Sword Coast, and would eventually and gradually spread towards the now uninhabited east. Two main powers gained momentum along the Sword Coast. The city-states of Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter, Luskan and Mirabar formed a makeshift and troubled trade alliance, and to the south of the Cloud Peaks dwelt the resurgent Am. In 218, a lord by the name of Varsipsis comes to power in the city of Waterdeep. Unthinkably, he gains a majority vote to dismiss the Lord's Council and becomes the first Waterdavian emperor in the nation's history. In 219, Varsipsis faces his first test. A coalition between the city-state of Baldur's Gate and the town of Daggerford believed they could capitalize on the period of political instability within Waterdeep to push against previously agreed-upon border treaties. Varsipsis retaliated with the full force of the Waterdavian military, and, critically, revealed that he had control of not one, but two fully grown dragons, which he had named Karsus the Black and Elminster the Red. With Baldur's Gate and Daggerford's forces routed, Varsipsis enjoyed a blossoming reputation as a Waterdavian hero, and added the territorial acquisitions to what he dubbed the Waterdavian Empire. He also earned the moniker the Dragon of the Deep. Following this, Varsipsis made strict reforms to the Waterdavian military, including admission requirements. Despite limiting the recruitment flow, a combination of flourishing patriotism and the belief in a greater reaching influence led to surges of enlistment. In 221, Varsipsis looked south towards Am. While still being officially ruled by a Lord's Council, actual power was known to be retained by the Syracuse cult. Varsipsis dispatched his legions to subvert the God of Lie's influence, claiming to be aiding the aforementioned Amian Lord's Council, a council which had never called for aid, but in fact fled across the sea years before. After a few skirmishes, Varsipsis took control of Afkatla, and with a decisive victory declared himself the Emperor of Am. In domestic policy, Varsipsis maintained a strict view on the diminished pantheon, challenging its worship and influence. Those that continued to preach and propagate traditional faiths were swiftly and forcefully removed from their respective communities, or later branded heretics and burned on mass pyres in the street. Despite this, the gods continued to remain silent throughout their worshippers' prosecution. The Waterdavian Empire fiercely enforced its unity and purity creed and pursued it to extremes. Initially, all half-races and subsequently non-human races are encouraged to depart from the Empire's borders. Again, this would further devolve into state-encouraged, and in some cases initiated, race riots and pogroms. In 224, reports arrived before Lord Edmund Busey's council of possible invasion plans from the Waterdavian front. He, however, considers the sources unreliable. In the quiet fishing town of Port Last, a handful of mercenaries are enlisted by a Neverwinter lord to secure a local iron mine, believed to be of strategic importance for the city-state. Despite proving successful in their endeavour and removing a fungal infestation from its lower levels, the contract issuer was found attacked and dying. With warning of a potential assassination plot, these mercenaries dispatched with haste to the most famous city of the north in a bid to warn the High Lord of this impending threat. Eyeing the tourney of Alagondar as a way to make contact with the High Lord Edmund Bussy without raising too much suspicion, a meeting with Magamar the Black, a major political player and influence within the city, was arranged to gain passes for the tournament entry. Despite a successful tournament run, but a not so successful investigation into potential threats, the High Lord of Neverwinter was assassinated, and the city plunged into outright chaos. Whilst the Lords' Council deliberated on a successor, rioting in the streets erupted and engulfed the city as the tensions within Beggar's Nest and continued dissatisfaction with the noble hierarchy had reached a boiling point. The Waterdavian Northern Legion, approximately 40,000 strong, would arrive 4 days later, claiming to keep the peace until order could be restored. The Lords' Council would be dismissed and Governor Edwin Nelakazdi installed as the Regent of Neverwinter, with the city remaining under garrison by Waterdavian forces under the request of Emperor Varsipsis. Magamar's organisation and contacts managed to stage an operation to get approximately 15,000 Neverwinter loyalists out of the city before the garrison arrived, and fled north along the coast. Others that managed to get out of the city beforehand fled north, and in the case of our Port Last mercenaries, to the dwarven home of Mirabar. Mirabar was facing its own troubles, with brewing tensions surrounding King Marek Dustov's succession. The primary candidates being Barak Dustov, the son of Marek and the leader of the Royalists, and Lord Greston, a conservative stone speaker who claims on his deathbed King Marek desired his son not to become king. Barak seeks a more open Mirabar, trade with the surface world, an abolished caste system, and to dismiss the Council of Sparkling Stones entirely. Lord Greston, however, places heavy emphasis on tradition and the uplifting of all dwarves, who heavily advocates the principles of dwarven honour and duty and ancestry. The Provings victors would declare support for Lord Greston, one of which remained the last surviving mercenary from Port Last. They would also tackle an underground cartel to acquire both the Cantech and plates of the Underforge necessary for a mysterious expedition planned by their chosen succession candidate. Greston would also promise his army in support of the Northern Resistance, now mustering in Icewind Dale, with Magamar personally requesting the mercenary that escaped Neverwinter to answer his summons in the north. In Dwarven lore, it is stated that a matter of succession can be settled by the token favour of a Dwarven paragon. Dwarven fables tell of Mars, one of the greatest Dwarven smithies in legend, that found a way to elude death and remains sealed within the Delzoun Underforge buried deep beneath Mirabar. Despite not putting stock in Dwarven fables, Greston instead believes that an artifact of this Dwarven ancestor would carry such weighted favour that the succession stalemate would be overruled and a candidate be crowned King of Mirabar immediately, irreversibly and definitively determining the Dwarf Kingdom's future and standing with the North. Venturing into the vast tunnel networks towards the fabled Mars Gate proved a dangerous task, but ultimately the mercenary team dispatched by Greston were up to the challenge. They also encountered the remnants of the Theosite Slayers who had similarly journeyed to the Mars Gate after a prophesied vision of duty to contain a great evil that could be released from its maw. They were persuaded to allow the mercenaries to open the gate, but warned them of the perils that could lurk within, and that eventually they would reseal the gate if the expedition team did not return. As the Underforged gate has been opened, you must now explore what lies within. Be warned, the dwarves sealed away some of their secrets, for good reason. Despite previously declaring for Lord Greston, you still have the power to ultimately influence Mirabar's succession one way or the other. The north is yours to explore, but for those seeking to counter the encroaching threat of the Dragon of the Deep, you must gather your allies and look to your contact in Magamar. Whatever you decide, fell deeds awake. This summer we at last return home.